Hey guys, so I want to start in Luke 10, the parable of the Good Samaritan, and then following that is Mary versus Martha. So let's get started in verse 30. And Jesus answering said, "A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment and wounded him and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and he passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and went to him, and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which now of these three thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, He that showed mercy on him. Then Jesus said unto him, Go and do likewise." Okay, I'm going to go back over this in a minute, but I want to go ahead and read the Mary and Martha account. Now it came to pass as they went that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, which also sat at Jesus' feet, resting, which also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was cumbered about with much serving, and came unto him and said, Lord, dost thou not care that my sister hath left me to serve alone? Bid her therefore that she help me. And Jesus answered and said unto her, Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful. And Mary hath chosen that good part, which shall not be taken away from her. So I want to go back here, and I'm going to reread this parable through the lens of identification truths, through the New Testament ministry of reconciliation. So a certain sheep that has been learning about identification truths, this sheep is a believer in the Word, and it has been leaving the religious establishment and is going outside the camp to suffer with Jesus, to be among the few that recognize Jesus as their justification, sanctification, reward, holiness, and glorification. Well, along the way, this sheep fell among thieves, among some religious people that saw this sheep and wanted to rob this sheep. They stripped him of his raiment. In other words, they stole his crown. They stripped him of his assurance and his standing before the Lord, because we are clothed, for those of us who believe the gospel, our raiment is Christ. We are clothed with Christ. But these thieves and robbers stripped him of that assurance. They wounded him by beating him and placing burdens on him. And then they departed, just leaving him half dead. And by chance, there came down a preacher, and when the preacher saw him, he was like, oh, well, he just needs to get up and go to work. He's just lazy. You know, he's in that situation because he brought that on himself. And likewise, a deacon, when he was at the place, came and looked on him, and he was like, no, this person's not worth my time. He's not serving in the church. What good is he to me? But another outcast, another sheep that knows what it was like to be beaten, as he journeyed, came to where this other sheep was. And when this Samaritan saw him, he had compassion on him. He went to him, and by dispensing the word, the living word, by dispensing Christ as food and drink, as dispensing Christ as this sheep's oil and wine, was edifying the sheep. And as he set this sheep on his own beast, as Jesus just carried, he bore our sins upon his own breast when he was on the cross at Calvary. And the Samaritan brought him to an inn and took care of him. The word is living and active and sharper than any double-edged sword. It is our balm. Jesus is our food, drink, our wine, our healing. And on the morrow, when the Samaritan departed, he took out 2 pence, gave them to the host, and then so basically, Jesus is the Good Samaritan. Jesus wants to bind up the brokenhearted. He is close to those who are brokenhearted. A bruised reed he will not break. So don't let anyone steal your crown. There will be thieves and robbers who will scorn you for standing in your justification, but do not allow them to strip you of your raiment of Christ. And then Mary versus Martha, just like Cain probably looked at Abel, well, he's just so lazy. All he did was just bring this lamb, and I toiled within my own strength, and I had to grow this food. I had to spend months fighting the thorns and the weeds, and this lazy brother of mine just gets accepted and my offer doesn't. Well, likewise, so many people that think we need to work to earn God's favor are running around like chickens with their head cut off, trying to work and do things to, quote unquote, serve God, but only one thing is needful. All we need to do is sit at Jesus' feet and listen to his words of life. And as we sit and marinate in these truths by rightly dividing the word of truth, we're able to stand in our assurance of who we are in him because of who he is in us. And thus we're able to walk in assurance, dispensing to others Christ as food and drink. Okay, guys, be blessed.